In an uncommodating, undaunted, yet unquantifiably uncorruptible universe, it's the Show. Yes, it's Wednesday night, undressed from Conroy's Emporium, where you can get anything your heart desires. Have you washed your hands, Conroy? You disgusting person. Goodness gracious, no, don't. Hello, my fellow undressed. Yes, it's me, Jeremy Taylor, and welcome to the talk show that pretends to care. The show where we ask customers to join in with our opinions, or even their opinions. I could tell you a funny story, but you know what Conroy's like. He'll hear you laugh. And he'd know that I told you naughty story. But look, hang on. No, here. Did you hear about the man? There's a man, the man walked into the psychiatrist's. Man walked into a psychiatrist. He had a frog growing out of his ear. No, he did. No, seriously. Don't mock. He had a frog growing out of his ear. Psychiatrist says, how long's it been like that? Frog said, well, it started with a boil on my bum. Look. No, don't. No. We need to be a bit more serious. Now, undress panel tonight includes Donna, of course, Kathleen, Louis Orlando, Dr. Orlando is with us, Ivo Ivanov, and a new guest today, Dee Dee is with us. Now, yes, let's do something serious. Former CIA Director Michael Hayden believes there's a legitimate possibility that the U.S. military would refuse to follow orders given by Donald Trump. Now, he's joined now by senior officers from the military, not only here in America, but in NATO countries as well. Hayden, who was the CIA director from 1999 to 2005, made the provocative statement on Friday during an appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher. Trump, fresh off a string of primary victories, has yet to, of course, secure his party's nomination. He said, I'd be incredibly concerned if President Trump governed in a way which is consistent with the language that candidate Trump has expressed. Earlier this month, Trump told the South Carolina retirement community that he supports waterboarding. He says torture works. President Obama's administration, of course, discontinued its use during his first time in office. Don't tell me it doesn't work, says Trump. Torture works. Trump has also, on multiple times, suggested killing the families of terrorists. He said that will make people think, because they don't care much about their lives, but they do care about their families' lives. Now, Trump probably has a point, he's probably not wrong there. But unfortunately, targeting terrorist family members is barred by the Geneva Convention.
Where in America is Geneva?
Geneva, it's a small place just off the eastern coast of Canada.
But they had a convention there once.
So they did have a convention
America?
there. America? No, Canada.
No.
One of the British.
It doesn't count,
it's a British place, Canada.
That's like
we grow snow there, and French people.
Am I wrong, or did you just say that Donald Trump told a South Carolina retirement community that torture works?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Absolutely,
yeah. Exactly the amount of
I can't even say this with a straight face.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, the other day I ate a piece of pizza from Little Caesars that smelled like a South Carolina retirement community.
Was it tortured? Oh my God.
Now, I posited this conversation a few weeks ago, and I'd like you to think seriously about this. You see, torture, is torture okay? Liberals might say no. The far right might say yes. But I ask you this, if you're Mayor de Blasio and your security people are in your office, they're trying to bring a helicopter down off the roof to get you out of New York, you don't know where your kids are, but they are in New York, and there's a terrorist across the building with some commandos who've caught him, and he knows how to switch off the nuclear weapon that is about to destroy New York. Now, how do we feel about waterboarding?
Always
and
love Jack
Just
Bauer.
call Kiefer Sutherland,
Yeah.
for the love of God.
Yeah, you brought up an impossible scenario because this subject has actually been on NPR a lot, and the former head of the NSA made it quite clear that it doesn't matter how I feel personally about torture, about whether it works or doesn't work. At this present moment, it is against the law. And until Congress decides to change that, it will stay against the law.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Evo.
Yeah.
I don't want to step on.
no problem.
No. What I was getting ready to say is, if the question is whether or not Trump is appealing to something that the voters are in love with, then the point that Donna just made becomes really, really significant. Because it is illegal right now, doesn't mean that it would stay illegal if we had to look at the inauguration of Donald Trump next year.
I always love Donald Trump's metrics. When he makes a statement, he's got always like very powerful statistic behind his statement. He says, torture works, okay? Trust me, torture works. That is always, he's empirical data is amazing. I mean, I don't know how he manages to come up with it.
Because he's great.
And then he says,
Because he's great and he's huge.
okay.
Yes, but it works. Like
It works on a retirement community in South Carolina.
As much as I want to complain about what he's doing, it's working. He can
winning.
say whatever. He is winning, and he's winning hand over fist. He can't keep people from voting for
the
him.
interviews of people who actually support this guy, they believe whatever they want to believe about him. The white supremacists believe he's on their side. The ones who are not white supremacists believe that he didn't really make it. He says all sorts of different things, and because they want to support him, they choose the part of what he says that they want to believe.
I think that's exactly it. He
Dee
puts
Dee.
these empty messages.
Yeah.
Also, I heard last night a statistic. It was on my favorite channel, which I shan't go into. It'll become
She
obvious.
watches Fox. She does. She watches Fox.
Oh, please. You need to unsay that right now.
Tell us, what does the fox say?
Yeah, what does the Fox say?
I only like
The
foxes
fox with
in
the curly
woods.
tail.
Nothing from Fox will burn my eyes. Nonetheless, it said
On
that,
Fox.
that Trump followers, Trump voters, where they got the statistic, I don't know, but it was actually presented as a real statistic. 85% believe that Obama's a Muslim, illegitimate, born in Kenya, all that other garbage. So, therefore,
Garbage?
If that really fleshes out who his voters are, what do we expect?
But those voters and Trump himself, his persona, they have been built in the last 8 years by a giant propaganda machine. Piece by piece by piece, the hatred, the racism, the denial, the town hall meetings, the screaming, the Rush Limbaugh, the Bill O'Reilly, this giant propaganda machine fueled by think tanks. This is their creation and their undoing.
Yeah.
However, there's a huge irony going on here. Huge. And you are
Please
you
don't
are
say
right.
huge. Don't do that.
You're throwing me off my game here, woman. Sorry. And that is and it's the problem that the Republican establishment is having with him. Because, yes, you're right. He's appealed to all these groups. And, yes, all of that has been built up over 8 years. But he stands for nothing that traditional Republican values represent. And this is why his party is going crazy. He stands for universal health care.
Yeah.
He stands for Planned Parenthood. He stands for, so many of the issues.
Dr. Orlando is trying to say something.
No. I don't want to interrupt her. I just wanted to know that I wanted to
Yeah, but you were sticking your hand up.
Well, I just like to
back at
wave my
school.
hands in
And
the
actually,
air.
I
just
think I've
don't
made
care.
my point is the fact that he stands for democratic values. If you really dig down to what he stands for, and this is some of the bigger tent pole issues, and this is what's driving the Republican higher ups crazy.
You have found the way to defeat him. Call him a liberal.
Well, I think
don't think it'll work.
I
It's
think
hard.
that is beginning to occur to some
But
of
the
them.
thing with Trump is that everything is upside down. What's up is down. What's right is left, and what's left is right.
oh,
and,
absolutely.
And things that would have drowned and torpedoed other. The bell agrees with me. Would have torpedoed other candidates.
Jeremy
seem
was
to be,
finally correct.
Listen,
Seem
did
to
I
be
say
Dr. Orlando next, and then Kathleen.
So, no, I was going to actually
Well, he can't
modify
make
what
his
you
mind
just
up,
said.
so-
yeah,
you are
I
going to talk.
I
All
didn't
right.
know whether to talk or just
Finally.
look at Donna. No.
Yeah.
No, I was
Enjoy.
going to modify what you said because what Trump seems to be is much more a pre-Reagan Republican. Like, there's been this shift towards the right with the Republican Party since Reagan that...
Did you just say shit toward the right?
I did say shit towards the right. Or at least I set that in my mind.
I didn't know we could say that sort of thing. Yeah.
There seems to be this shift towards the right. In the past, the Republican Party, if you go back 40 years, the Republican Party stood for all of these things that we are talking about in varying forms. And Trump definitely represents a movement back towards, you said traditional Republican, and that's what keyed that thought in my head. Not that he's much more a traditional Republican than the current batch of Republicans.
Mm-hmm. But I still, sticking with the theory that I've had for some time now, the Republican establishment brought this on themselves. Yeah. They purposely created a large body of what they proudly called low information voters.
Yes.
Which they courted. Mm-hmm. And now these low information voters...
now they're harvesting them.
Yeah, have decided they don't like these rich guys who are so uppity and think they know better than they do, and they're doing whatever the heck they want.
Another good metaphor is the Frankenstein monster, where they literally build piece by piece this Frankenstein monster called Trump out of dead tissue, and then brought him to life. And now
You're talking about the hair, right?
Well, of course, but that's been dead for a while.
Yes, but it manages to have a life of its own. So
it lives. It lives. It lives.
It's whether or not there's something actually living up there. Is it? So we come to the conclusion that we haven't come to a conclusion. Do we really believe that if there was such a thing as President Trump, and nobody's going to say he's necessarily made it, if you actually listen to the pundits who know what they're talking about, rather than just the youngsters, you listen to the older hands,
know what they're talking about.
You'll notice that what they're saying is it's all about the numbers. It's not about the states. Trump is saying, I've done this and I've done that, what have you. What they're talking about is the numbers of delegates. And so that is why Rubio, Kasich, and co. are staying in.
And Sanders, for that matter.
Yeah, Carson, I think, is going to bail on Friday, my understanding.
No,
is.
he bailed as of tonight. It was on
he's
the
bailed,
news
has he? Right.
On my way here.
He announced
and
there was
you're
no
right.
path.
It is in the numbers, which may cause the Republican convention to see something it has not seen in I don't know how many years.
Well, since you were a girl.
Okay,
A gay young
fight
thing.
on the floor.
Yes.
And that has no, that.
Well,
that
they've had
would be
fights
big
on the
news.
floor before. I mean
a delegation.
And
Yeah,
if,
I mean,
if
duking
Rubio,
it out.
Cruz, or even Kasich actually drops out, then Trump might just get enough votes to not cause a fight on the floor and just get the nomination outright. And that's what scares him. I think that they have got to stop calling for the other guys to drop out and coalesce, because they ain't going to coalesce.
Well,
if they drop out, some of them will go to Trump, and Trump will get it.
Yeah, look how Christie coalesced.
Yeah.
Went straight to Trump.
Oh,
so
Christie.
yeah,
He lost
some
his
of
soul,
them, some of them will be hoping for a vice presidential nomination. So, they're
That
trying
may
to
be
kiss
what
up.
Christie's doing, but
Yeah.
if you looked at Christie last night, he was not looking a happy man. He'd been asked to turn up.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious that the locals are saying, hang on a minute, we didn't elect you to do all this stuff. You're our governor. You need to come back and be the governor, And so he may be having a hard time. We'll move on. Some episodes ago, we talked about Apple's backdoor dear. And we discussed CEO Tim Cook's decision to fight a federal magistrate's order to hack its users in connection with investigation of the San Bernardino shooting, asserting that...
You're all right, Evo?
I just remembered... Sorry. I just remembered Triumph. Triumph, the insult comedy dog, started laughing. I'm sorry. I just watched the special on Triumph. Triumph, the insult comedy dog, was at one of the Republican events, and he was interviewing people, and he was actually interviewing candidates. And he... it was so ridiculously funny. I had a hard time containing myself, but he actually approached one of the presidential candidates. I think it was Kasich, and he was asking him to read his jokes, and they were so obnoxious that he was refusing to read them one after the other, and then finally. It's amazing what these people will put up with when the puppet dog comes in front of them. But finally he read one, and this might have been the most offensive one of all. And it was about Carly Fiorina. And Triumph said, can you read the joke for me? And Kasich said, okay, I'll read it. He read it, and it was, Carly Fiorina is 61 years old. In dog years, that's 61 years old. It's horrible.
So, okay then.
Oh.
So we heard about Apple's backdoor, sweetie, and since then, Bill Gates has come out in support of Tim Cook, and you don't get much more. If you want what's the word the politicians are using, endorsement from Bill Gates. However, Apple's iPhone encryption woes are far from over. Though the company did score a significant victory against the FBI the other day, it's not just the US that wants special backdoor access to encrypted iPhones. Other countries are getting into it.
Can you say that backdoor access part slowly?
Backdoor access.
Awesome.
Oh,
All right.
you naughty thing. Well, you are awful, but we like you. No, we do. We like you. Yes. Now, France, those naughty Frenchmen are like. Apparently, they're studying ways to convince Apple, Google, and other tech companies to comply with similar orders. One proposal includes fines of up to €1 million, which is a little over $1 million per incident. French MPs proposed an amendment to French law that would see US companies punished for refusing to cooperate with the French authorities. And the French authorities get very funny about this sort of thing. When they say enough, they actually mean it. And there are a number of different examples of French authorities getting a bee in their bonnet about things. So one, for instance, is wearing religious icons, right? If you're walking around in the streets of Paris and you wear a cross, you could get arrested. I mean, really. You wouldn't believe it. Or if you wear a hijab, you could get arrested. Now, you're not always. But if they decide, that police officer's having a bad day, then you're going inside. I mean, if you're an American, that means you're going to get deported. So you should bear
Does
that
that
in
mean
mind.
priests have to wear ordinary clothes when they go outside?
No, they're allowed to, but they mustn't wear a cross. See?
And Jeremy, you got to give up your hijab now. You
I
can't
know.
wear it in France.
So in addition
only in the
to
bedroom, dear.
to the Les Français, we have the Brits. See?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those guys that were once in
The
power?
Brits have a major problem since they've obviously lost Commander Bond and they're looking for a new one at the moment. But they've also proposed a law a few months ago, initially looking to seek a ban on encryption. The proposed law would only require Apple and others to provide customer data. So, yet we have a punch-up with the FBI to come here in America. What does the panel think?
Could I start? As I wasn't here for your
Yeah,
major
because
discussion
you were
on that
actually
one.
in the UK encrypting.
Yeah. Encrypting grandchildren. I don't think that we are going to find all the facts. I don't trust either Apple or the FBI or anybody else to actually tell all the true facts of the case. I do not trust corporations. I don't like this tendency of America to deify Apple or Bill Gates. They are basically heads of large corporations whose main object is to make money.
Yeah, of
and
course.
they will do anything to make money. And if it is in their best interest to pretend that they were being required to create a back door in order to keep their sales
Use
up,
that word again.
No,
then they will do it.
Sorry,
It's
can
a
you
fan-
go back to that backdoor word?
Yeah.
slowly?
it's a fantastic
Sorry.
marketing opportunity. It's a fantastic marketing. Yes, don't.
As you all know, I listen to NPR rather religiously.
Yeah.
You?
I guess I couldn't use that word religious in
Didn't
France.
know that you did anything religiously.
Yeah. Read between those lines. And there was a really interesting intelligence, a woman from the intelligence community today who kind of put the argument in a whole new perspective for me that I hadn't really thought of. And she said, you know what? What this boils down to is not the FBI versus Apple. It boils down to the FBI drawing attention to the fact that it itself does not have the money or the
resources.
people or the resources to do this themselves, and that's what they really want.
That's
They
a good
want-
point.
They don't
want
want
more
to have
funding?
to rely on Apple or IBM or anyone else. They want to be able to attract the most intelligent people out there who can do all of this in-house in the FBI.
Well, I mean, it's a great marketing opportunity for Apple to demonstrate to the world that even the FBI is unable to crack their code, how good they are, how secure they are, how reliable, and how can they pass on? You said it, it's a money-making entity. Apple is a corporation. They have to take this opportunity to market themselves.
Which brings up the point of the European countries who are now threatening financial disarray if they continue this over there. Now, how fast will they crumble in the face of billion-dollar fines?
Le
They won't crumble at all.
Le
They
Parisien
won't crumble at
newspaper
all. Sorry.
reports that only money will force these extremely powerful companies like Apple, Google to comply. Parisien
It's not
said
gonna happen.
they
We'll see.
currently have 8 recovered phones relating to recent terror attacks, which are supposedly inaccessible to police. And they're saying they're hiding behind a supposed privacy protection, but they're quick to make commercial use of personal data that they're collecting. So
What will happen in both cases is that both companies will vacate the market if they are forced to comply with these rules that, quite honestly, will cause them to lose money. They will vacate the market and cause such an uproar because people like their electronic shit that the government will back down.
What if
And
the governments don't back down?
it won't hurt Apple or Google at all. They will
Okay.
they will literally sell their phones on the black market for 10 times what they're currently making.
Oh, so that's another money-making ploy.
Oh yeah, I don't mean to imply that it is not a money making strategy. What I mean to imply is that not only are they in the moral right in this case, but the moral right makes them money.
My point is that I because they are trying to make money and because the FBI is trying to get data, I don't believe either of them, and I don't think either of them is in the moral right. We just don't know the facts, and I don't think we ever will.
Okay, so you're saying that with this story with two sides,
Yeah.
that neither side is right?
I'm saying it's a he said thing.
Mm-hmm.
Apple is saying they told us we had to create a back door, which would then become
that word again.
available
I
everywhere.
love it. We're going to talk about this all night.
And the FBI said no, that's not. We asked for specifically for this. They don't agree on what was asked for. How are we going to get to the facts of that?
That's actually a good point. They are
Well, thank
fighting.
you.
They are sorry. I don't mean to sound condescending.
It's all right.
Sorry, that really was. I apologize. No, that is what I meant to say is that is a point that I had not considered. That they really are arguing over what's being asked for.
Exactly.
And because of that, people like me will bring in whatever preconceived notions they want. So when I hear the argument, I literally immediately hear the government wants access to everything that we say and do.
May not be the fact.
But isn't that exactly the fact of what France and Britain are talking about? It wasn't the quote.
Yeah,
and
but
I
that's a later argument. That's
nothing
to do with the
It is
original
exactly
argument.
the same. No, it's exactly the same. It is not the same in that the American government is not making this case explicitly. But I quite literally don't remember if it was the Parisian government or the British government that said in an interview, if they do not grant us this backdoor access, people can have private conversations. And that was the extent of this government official's quote, which to my way
The
of...
bottom line is we're talking about terrorism again.
Again,
And
that's such third level, metaphysical problems. We are literally talking about the founding principles, and not like founding
I'm going to
principles.
try something.
Okay.
I'm going to try something. And if Eric, the producer, is paying attention, Emil is sitting across. Emil is 15. Are you 15, Emil? Yeah. Yes. Loud as you can, Emil. Do you believe that the government should be able to find out anything that there is on your phone? And we don't normally get someone as young as Emil here. He's holding his phone. He's sitting here with his parents watching us fool around. Do you think that the government should be able... You've heard of all the terrorism things. Do you believe that the government should be able to hack into your phone? What do you think?
Hold on, I'm bringing him a mic.
And it's a serious question. What do you think?
Well, in this case, yeah.
In this case, yes.
Yeah.
You do. So, do you honestly believe that your friends, nice and close to the microphone if you can, do you believe that your friends would think the same thing as you?
Maybe, because they're already convicted of terrorism. And they're already...
If they're already convicted of terrorism, you think then the government, the FBI or whoever, James Bond or something, should be able to get into the phone?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's an interesting...
He'll be voting for Trump.
Okay. So,
Emil, should 15-year-olds be allowed to drink?
No.
Haha, backfired. It
did. It did. How about
Rampant unprotected sex.
What if you're 15 and you're dying, and that's your make-a-wish thing is to have a drink, an alcoholic drink? Should they make an exception? Like, you're dying tomorrow.
Sure.
What?
But once they make an exception, Emil, that's it. Once there's an exception.
no, don't listen to Evo.
That's
You're American with an N.
Because
Right? No,
that's not-
we asked
Sorry.
Emil a straight question, right? As a 15-year-old, straight without any practice, what did he think, right? And he said he feels that the government should be able to break into the phone, which I think I go with what Emil says.
Yeah.
Can I bring in a completely on the topic but off the topic? I was quite heartened to hear, as you know, this is going before the courts, and one of the husbands of a victim who was killed in San Bernardino has filed a friend of the court brief, and what he said was, I am completely in favor of Apple, completely, because it was not an iPhone that killed my wife. It was a gun.
Well, I think that there is some significance to that. There's really nothing in the nothing that would lead us to believe, nothing that would lead the FBI to believe, nothing that would lead the police to believe that there's anything of any import on the phone. This really has become an exercise in...
Isn't that for the court to decide? And hasn't the court already decided that they need to look into this phone?
That was what one court decided, but
Well,
they've
yeah.
got a different
if
court
a court
that...
orders it, then
Well,
I
they
mean,
have
from,
the right
from a
to an
distance of
appeal.
1,000 miles away and not actually knowing all the facts, how can we second guess that?
Well,
There are still hearings ongoing.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, there has been one level of court that has decided that Apple should give the FBI access to the phone.
And there's one court that's decided they shouldn't.
Right.
So it's
As
Dee
of
Dee.
yesterday on NPR, they said that one of the problems is the FBI was quoted as saying they don't really know what they're looking for. They just want to look. It's not specific. They just want access.
And their issue, of course, is that they only have a certain number of goes to get into the phone. And then what it does is it doesn't exactly self-destruct, but it will scramble everything.
They're already past that. They are essentially that is the Apple operating system that as it exists. What the government is asking for now is for Apple to build. I'm sorry, the government doesn't know what they're asking for. What Apple has interpreted their request for, thank you, Kath, is a way that Apple can essentially access the information that, as of right now, is inaccessible to Apple.
Yeah, right.
Let's move on to a new subject, and that is something that annoys me and has been annoying me over the last few years.
White people?
I'm sorry? Are we... Who... What?
White people?
No, Americans.
Oh, okay.
Back at home, back in the day, we used to stay up to wait for the Oscars to come on. You know, it was a big deal. We'd stay up and quite late at night and things like that. Sort of, and I'm talking about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I can remember John Wayne walking down the stairs when they gave him a sort of honorary Oscar.
Why are you sweating all of a sudden, Jeremy?
Yeah,
Calm down.
Well,
Stop
you know,
thinking about John Wayne.
And as I say,
Because he
I
was
don't
going
watch
to
the
die.
Oscars to get harangued about racism, rape, sex abuse, greedy bankers, global warming and gay rights. I watch it to be entertained, and the decision by the show's producers to ask nominees to provide the names of those who wish to be thanked, their sisters, uncles, aunts and Uncle Fred, just sort of fell prey to a new horror. And the horror was that everyone watching at home had to be harangued about sex and drugs and rock and... No, there wasn't any rock and roll even. Host Chris Rock set the tone right from his opening monologue with a relentless onslaught on both the Academy's shocking failure to nominate a single black actor. He was undeniably funny, and he could hardly ignore the issue given all the pre-show controversy. Message creep became the main epidemic of the evening. Big Short director Adam McKay railed against corporate corruption. The producers of Best Picture Spotlight did the same thing about Trump. They did a Trump investigated journalism, whacked the Pope. Vice President Joe Biden to a standing ovation, which took a few moments to stand, They had to think about it. They weren't altogether sure. Then they decided, well, if he's standing, I better had. Promoted the White House campaign, It's On Us, and then Lady Gaga performed in only the way that she can. Even Jenny Beavan, the British costume design winner from Mad Max, the Mad Max Fury Road, felt the need whilst wearing, and she's been called a bag lady, which is an extremely unpleasant and rotten thing for the Americans to do, for everybody to be kinder to each other. Otherwise, we'll end up in an apocalyptic hell like the movie. There was the ill-informed Sam Smith, who won Best Song for a rather dreary Bond movie song.
For a rather dreary movie.
He quoted Sir Ian McKellen and got it completely wrong when he said, no openly gay man's ever won an Oscar. Well, McKellen never said that, and a number of gay people have won Oscars, not least Elton John, who I think's won 2 of them. So we finally get to Leonardo DiCaprio, who's obviously a really, really cool actor, great guy, superb role model. Even if he didn't bring the bear on, he thanked his mum and dad, and he was humble and heartfelt, and then off he went and morphed into Al Gore. My feeling is that if actors truly want to make a difference to the world's ills, I'd urge them to follow Ronald Reagan into politics where they can make a proper difference.
Oh, good God, I hope not.
Ditto. Good God, I hope not. Look what happened after that.
These are...
Now, Dee Dee, let's let Dee Dee start, because Dee Dee's a choreographer. She's a professional artiste, and all that sort of stuff, know what I mean? And I'm very interested to see what Dee Dee's got to say.
Well, it will... I don't know. You may
nice and close to the microphone.
You may unsay that, Jeremy, because...
an unword.
I am trying. Thank you.
You can come back.
Because it's hard. The movies had such political import. I mean, they were about those subjects. I think it would be artifice to separate them and just say, okay, I just have to play it straight, because then I think that the accusation would be they're not in today's world. They live in the Hollywood bubble, the Beverly Hills glamour. They live in untold riches and aren't in touch, when I think they very much are trying to be more and more. And it kind of, to me, would be wrong if they didn't use, particularly when their movie was trying to say something. But even in other circumstances where it's not necessarily politically tuned in, I would feel the opposite. That if they didn't say something, Lady Gaga, certainly that performance was about. Yeah. We know what that song was in reference to. Spotlight. I'm drawing a blank on the other ones, but the black thing had to be addressed. I didn't even know how he would attempt it, but it had to be. So I feel that it was very much integral to the whole night.
Well, bearing in mind that we have an African American on our panel who was brought up in one of the hardest areas in America. We talk about terrorism.
Where you at?
We talk about terrorism. This is, if they're going to blow up East St. Louis, the guys in East St. Louis are going to say, like they would in Glasgow, you're going to bomb. You come over here, guys. You want to learn how to do it. The point is, a number of senior, you might call, or what's the right word for important actors? A-lister actors, African Americans have said, it wouldn't be because they just weren't good enough this year, was it?
But you started this diatribe with how you don't watch the Oscars to receive messages, but to get entertained. I think Academy Award movies are not just pure entertainment. Academy Award level movies are typically not just entertainment. They're thinking, they provoke independent critical thinking. And all of these nominated movies, if you look at them, pretty much almost all of them had a message, and they stayed on message. The people that took the microphone to thank, and they stayed on message. The Big Short had a message. Spotlight had a message.
That was exactly what you were saying.
Revenant, even Leonardo DiCaprio, the way he put it, even that had a message. Our connection with nature and how important it is, and the
didn't
vastness.
Respect the bear, though, did he?
He respected the bear.
Hey, by the way, there was something called Second Amendment. It had the right to bear arms.
Damn.
Does
Evo.
And
We learned that bears, when they're eating somebody, like to have sex with them at the same time. That I thought
stop!
was weird.
Seriously,
Really weird.
stop! I now have images in my head, and I want to get back to the Oscars because, lest we think this is a new phenomenon, it goes back quite a ways. I heard you mention it before we got on air, and the times that we have been most political in the Oscars mirror the times in our lives that we have been most political. The 50s were calm, polite, everybody was genteel, but by the time we get to the late 60s and the 70s, 1970, you have Jane Fonda stepping out of her a limousine and giving a Black Panther salute. You have Vanessa Redgrave. You have, in 75, the documentary
we had Vanessa
filmmaker,
Redgrave.
Talking about Vietnam. You have the most famous one, Marlon Brando and Sacheen Littlefeather.
Yeah.
The 70s, everything they had to say, and they said it frequently, and they said it often. They were very political.
Well,
but it reflected the times that we were in the 70s. By the 80s, we, started getting into that dynasty, big hair, big clothes, everybody's rich, we're great. And then the Oscars reflected that. Then it was all about the clothes and the weird things people wore to the Oscars. 90s the same way, but we're in a very political time right now.
And some of the best speeches, Oscar speeches, are involved and politically engaged or, engaged with current events. Like the Tom Hanks speech when he won for Philadelphia, quite possibly the greatest speech of all time.
Oh, lovely.
And, and we don't, I like my artists to be thinking people. I don't want them to be Kanye Wests. I don't want them to be Kim Kardashians. I want them to be,
I'm sorry, I have to agree with Jeremy. I think that the move. Yeah, I know. I'm very depressed about it myself, but I think that this move of putting.
Are we spooning?
We are. We.
Is that what we're doing
Let me
now?
finish the talk, and then
Okay.
we can spoon later. This move of putting. Sorry.
putting the subtitles.
No, keep going. Go on, keep going.
I
know you
think
can.
that the move of putting the thank yous in text at the bottom of the screen as a scroll didn't really leave the artists anything to say. The artists had to be political. I think that you definitely have a point, Donna. I don't mean to deny that. But in lieu of getting up there and being thankful for the fact that you've won this award, that people recognize the work that you've done, and being sincerely appreciative, you don't have any other choice than to take on an issue and speak about it in front of the camera.
I agree with you to the point that that's the way it ended up. What the Academy was trying to do, desperately needed to be done, and that is shorten that damn thing up. Because we have people who have gone on and on and on thinking their fifth cousin, 10 times removed. And, talking over the music and not just, for a few seconds over that music. I mean, going on for minutes over the music. And you and I, we've all probably, perhaps not you, Kathleen, I don't think you're particularly fond of the Oscars, but we've all sat through people giving speeches of minutes long.
Yeah.
So I do understand the intent, and I think they were hoping for heartfelt people to use their 30 to 45 seconds to say something heartfelt. The fact that it did become political, as I said, I think it reflects our times.
Okay, I want to move on to another subject if I can, and that is that last episode we talked about a new basic musical based on President Hamilton. That is taking Broadway by storm. Hamilton touted as the first Broadway hip-hop hit. Some would argue.
Can we
that
immediately
point.
correct and say he was never president?
Yeah.
Donna busted me on this.
Oh,
just
no, of
before
course
the-
he was vice president, wasn't he?
No, oh God, no.
Wasn't he?
Secretary of the Treasury.
You sure about that?
Positive.
You're very positive.
Oh, I say.
Truly.
But he killed the president. No, he wasn't. He was killed
He
by
killed a
the
man in Reno just to watch him die.
No, he.
I think he,
No, he was killed by the vice president, who was vice president one time. I don't know if he was.
wasn't
at the
he
time.
mauled by a bear?
Hamilton
Hamilton
did
was
not make it to president.
He did
Hamilton
not.
Vice
was
president.
shot, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was by Aaron Burr.
Right. Okay.
That's right.
So, with that little diversion of people who don't know what they're talking about, some would argue the point. Look, whose country do you think this is?
So you would really sympathize with King George. You should hear his...
Which is one of the best parts of the whole show.
King George was misunderstood, and he was not a well man.
That's
We know
you
that.
saw what happened.
It's one of the highlights of
Yeah.
the show. I pray that you all live long enough and are wealthy enough to get a ticket. It's
Okay, so
it's
some would
wonderful.
argue the point that
Okay.
maybe it's not the first hip-hop, because Music Man might have been, and I want to throw this over to Dr. Orlando.
So, Donna, you brought this up. It may be in our second or third show that this was something that I've got to check out. And quite honestly, since you brought it up, I have heard people in pretty much every corner of life talk about Hamilton and that it is a transformative experience. That it is the first hip-hop opera. I'm sorry, hip-hop opera is completely wrong. Hip-hop musical. And that it will change the face of musicals in the future. So I listened to it. I actually sat down and listened to the entire multi-CD set beginning to end, and I was completely underwhelmed. I was shocked at how little I liked it. Now, not that it was bad. It was never bad, and I don't mean to imply that it is in any way not hip-hop, because it definitely is hip-hop. But it is hip-hop from 35 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's cleaned up hip hop.
It's not even that. It's cleaned up hip hop.
It's not hip hop. There are ballads in there.
Well, and I don't mind the ballads, and I don't mind the musical structure of it. And I know that between the folks here on the panel, we've had some discussions as to whether or not it's the first rap musical. And I think Donna and I kind of hinted towards the fact that the question of whether or not it's rap was never officially the designation. It's been referred to as a hip-hop and a hip-hop musical. And to talk about it in terms of a rap musical, or if it's the first rap musical, becomes difficult because then you got to define rap. And rap doesn't have a specific definition, or I'm sorry, rap has a technical definition that Hamilton absolutely fits, but other things could fit too. There's absolutely no way that you couldn't tell me that the part of Music Man that you talk about, Kath, isn't a rap song. It fits every technical qualification that you could bring up. But as to the hip hop nature, no. Please.
No, when you're done.
Okay. I think that it is without question a hip hop musical.
Because we've only got another 7 hours.
Okay.
Right.
I think that is without question a hip hop musical. But I am a little saddened that would be the thing that would transform musicals in general, because there's quite honestly so much better hip-hop than what, and again, I've only listened to the music. I haven't seen the performance. I don't, there's obviously an arena to this that I'm missing, but as of right now, I want everybody that is in love with Hamilton to go out immediately and buy Eric B. and Rakim from 1988, because you will get a true understanding of what lyrical genius is.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't think I was going to like it. I'm a person who went to Les Miserables in London and hated it. Mm-hmm. I still hate it. I hate Cats. I do not like musicals that are just formulaic. This was not. And I was impressed in listening to it. The fact that I don't know what form it was. It wasn't rap. Maybe it's hip-hop. Maybe it's not. Parts of it weren't. But the sentiments and the words, they were clever. They were feeling, and they were clear. And I really enjoyed it.
I am reminded of 6 blind men trying to define an elephant. Unless you see it, unless you experience the whole thing, you're just talking. You're just talking about one part.
It is not an album; it's a musical, and a musical tells a story, and it has to follow the songs have to follow the story and unfold in coherent way, and also the dancing has to be accommodated by the music. You can't just throw an amazing hip hop and expect, the story to be told that way. So it's all connected.
And this is where I want to go back to what he said, because it is transformative, as was his first Tony Award winning, and I say first because this will definitely take the second Tony for him. There have been, you have to have an understanding of the history of the Broadway musical. You cannot make a comment like you just did without an understanding of the Broadway musical and how this changes just that. The Broadway musical. He's not making claims to the hip hop world. He's not making claims of, being on Jay-Z's label. Yeah. He's making claims to the fact that he is addressing hip hop culture. Mm-hmm. Culture, the original definition of hip, which I know is morphed. Everything morphs, right, into something else. But he is using a multicultural cast and rappers a well-known rapper playing Thomas Jefferson to make the larger point that the American musical is not just a bunch of white folks sitting around singing pretty lyrics and pretty songs, in the state of Oklahoma. There's a larger world out there, and it is time that, this very insular world of Broadway, very insular, start experiencing the larger world of what music and our culture, or his culture, pardon me for saying ours, his culture can achieve.
You can be black
on the Broadway
today, Donna.
stage. Thank you so much.
What's really sad is, guys, think about it, how quickly something original and wonderful becomes a stereotype and a cliche. You know how fast we're going to be, now there's going to be an avalanche of hip-hop crap musicals.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be everything. There's going to be
Kanye
Schindler's
West
List.
has already got one coming out.
Schindler's List hip-hop musical. There's going to be Duck Dynasty hip-hop musical. There's going to be Honey Boo Boo hip-hop musical. There's going to be every imaginable.
Explains the Broadway of Andrew Lloyd Webber continuously on Broadway.
Exactly. It opens a Pandora's box where everybody will start making hip-hop music. It's going to just turn something original and beautiful into a horrible cliche.
The thing about this one wasn't that it was hip-hop or that it was this format. I think the format was entirely secondary. The thing about this was that it gave humanity to the people of that time. And it put modern-day characteristics and showed you that they existed back then, too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have been going a very long time, my fellow undressed, and it is time
we have to get dressed.
It is time. It is time for the doctor to talk to us, and you are in the pulpit, Dr. Orlando. Away you go,
brothers and sisters. We are gathered here today to talk about a new word.
Amen.
Our word today is truckman. Truchman.
Oh,
truckman. So I have 3 definitions. They're all nouns. I'm going to give them to you, and you simply have to pick which one of the 3 a truckman is. Is it number 1, a warrior who fights with a truncheon? Is it number 2, a symbol of good luck?
okay.
Or is it 3, an interpreter?
Damn, I haven't a clue.
Ooh.
Well, hang on. So, truckman. Now, there is that saying...
Did you spell it? Yeah, one more time.
Hold on, I have to look at it.
Truchman. This is why you have a moderator and a host. Truchman. My question, I don't know the answer to this, but there is the saying is, I have no truck with that. So where does that lead us?
To a symbol of good luck.
No, it doesn't. I'm not having anything to do with it. I'm not having any truck with that.
Right. Not good luck.
Right. That's what. No.
It might be interpreter. Talisman, though, truckman, could those be the same thing?
Are you able to show me a spelling of another word without showing me what
Yeah,
the
what's the
answer
word?
is?
As long as Conway's internet's working.
It's the weapon you mentioned.
Truncheon?
Yeah.
Truncheon.
Truncheon.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to be sure.
Truncheon, as used by the British police for years and years and years.
Well, a truncheon's really just a stick.
No, it's
Just
not.
a what?
Just a
Stick.
stick.
not a
I'm
stick.
going with the symbol
It's
of good
nothing
luck.
like a stick.
I am too, actually. I'm going with the symbol.
Then I'll go with interpreter. I know it's number 3, and you did number 3 last week, so it's less
Said
likely.
number 2 last week.
I think it's the truce.
Well, I'm going to go with the first one.
I think it's the truce.
Actually,
The troop.
today is a banner day for me. What's up? Are we good? Okay. Today is a banner day for me because I have finally fooled Ivo Ivanov.
I know. That's my first miss. That's the first time I missed.
It is actually an interpreter.
Good job.
And I
Oh.
can tell you the Latin derivation, if anybody.
Yeah.
So, does that mean I'm the first
where's
one-
it come from then?
Hold on. There's a
The
version of it.
Nomnipo.
There's a version of it in multiple languages. Give me just a second to pull it up because my computer's acting all wonky.
Okay, I tell you what. Let's do that afterwards, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, because we've got to go. Thank you very much. You've been listening, incidentally, just in case you didn't know, to an undiluted,
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Unimaginably horrible.
unimaginable,
Yeah. Yeah.
unhinged. Thank you.
Unluckily.
From the
Unlistenable.
audience there. Unlist.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable form of unction known as Wednesday night undress from Conroy's.
Espresso.